Level 1. The applicant. You fill out an application on a government website that looks like every other government website. No black backgrounds, no red eagles, no dramatic seals. Just a login portal, a stack of forms, and a box asking you to list every address you've lived at since you were 16. You tell yourself this is just curiosity. You're not actually expecting a callback. Weeks pass. Then an email arrives from an address that reveals nothing. A name, a time, a building you've never heard of in a city you already live in. You show up in clothes that feel slightly too formal. The interview isn't what you expected. No trick questions about geopolitics. No riddles. Just a calm stranger asking why you want this, watching your face while you answer. You leave without knowing if it went well. Then come the forms. Decades of relationships. Every foreign contact you've ever had. Every debt. Every secret you thought no one needed to know. A polygraph technician straps sensors to your fingers and asks you the same 3 questions 4 different ways. Have you ever worked for a foreign government? Have you ever lied on this application? Your heart rate becomes data. Your hesitation becomes a flag. Investigators talk to your old roommates, your exes, your professors. People you haven't spoken to in years mention later that someone called asking strange, specific questions about you. You start to feel watched before you've done anything worth watching. Then one day, a letter. Welcome. Report to a facility that doesn't appear on any map, on a date they'll confirm later, under a name that almost, but not quite, matches what you told your family you'd be doing. You don't celebrate. You just start packing quietly, the way you'll learn to do everything from now on. Level 2. The trainee. They take your old life and lock it in a drawer somewhere. New name for the building. New rules for everyone. The facility sits inside a forest of identical trees, surrounded by fences that look more like landscaping than security, until you notice the cameras. The first weeks are mostly classroom. Tradecraft theory, dry lectures on history, long silences where instructors watch how you handle being watched. Then it shifts. They teach you how to lose someone following you through streets built specifically to be followed in. They teach you how to spot a tail without turning your head. You practice loading dead drops in the rain, memorizing signals chalked onto mailboxes, learning that the most dangerous mistake isn't getting caught. It's looking like you're trying not to be. You fail one exercise badly. An instructor pulls you aside, not angry, just precise. You hesitated. Hesitation gets people killed. You don't sleep well that night. You build a cover identity from nothing, a job that doesn't exist, a backstory you have to know better than your real one. They run interrogation simulations designed to break you, just to see how you bend. Some classmates wash out quietly, gone overnight. No goodbye, no explanation. The first time you learn that disappearing is just part of how this world works. By the end, you've learned the real lesson underneath all of it. Confidence isn't the goal. Invisibility is. Level 3. The case officer. Your first posting isn't glamorous. A mid-sized city, a desk job cover at an office that barely needs you, and a single assignment: find someone willing to talk. You spend weeks doing nothing that looks like spying. You go to embassy functions. You join a gym. You strike up conversations with low-level officials who complain about budgets and bosses, the same way people complain everywhere. You're not looking for secrets yet. You're looking for grievances. Eventually you find one, a junior ministry employee, overlooked, underpaid, resentful. You don't ask him for anything at first. You just listen. Weeks of coffee, weeks of small favors, weeks of being the only person who seems to actually care what he thinks. Then, carefully, you ask a small question. Nothing dramatic, just enough to see how he reacts. He hesitates, then answers. You don't celebrate out loud. You write the cable that night with your hands slightly unsteady. Headquarters responds fast. Develop him further. You learn the rhythm of running a source, The brush passes in crowded markets. The signal that means meet tonight. The signal that means abort. Go home. Your first real payment to him is modest, just enough to feel real to both of you. You start to understand the architecture underneath everything. Nobody hands over secrets for ideology alone. They do it for money, for revenge, for the feeling of finally mattering to someone. You didn't recruit a spy. You recruited a need, and you happened to be the one who filled it. Level 4, the handler. One source becomes 3. 3 becomes a network you have to track in a notebook you're not technically supposed to keep. Each one has a different reason for talking, and a different way of getting caught. You learn to compartmentalize their fears as carefully as their information. The ministry contact who panics at every car that slows down near his building. The military officer who only meets at odd hours because his wife is suspicious. The translator who keeps asking, almost too casually, what happens to people like her if this ever comes out? You stop thinking of them as sources and start thinking of them as obligations. Cash payments grow heavier. Dollars converted into local currency, hidden in places that would look insane to anyone who found them. Your reporting starts getting noticed back home. Cables flagged for the director's daily briefing. Your name mentioned in rooms you'll never see. The job stops being about finding secrets and starts being about managing people who are terrified, lonely, or both. You get good at false comfort, the kind that sounds true because you mean it in the moment. You start running surveillance detection routes before every meeting, 3 hours sometimes, just to walk in a straight line to a park bench. You stop answering personal calls during work hours. You stop telling people what you actually do, not because you're ordered to, but because the lie has become easier than the truth. One night, a source misses a meeting. No call, no signal, nothing. You sit in a parked car for 2 hours, telling yourself it's just traffic, just a delay, just nothing. It isn't nothing. It's the first time you understand that every name in your notebook is a clock you can't see ticking. Level 5, the station chief. You don't run sources directly anymore. You run the people who run them. A new office, a heavier title, access to cable traffic from every officer in the country, budget lines you sign off on without ever seeing the cash itself. You read reports from operations you didn't approve and have to decide in minutes whether to greenlight risk that could end careers, end lives, or end nothing at all. You learn the quiet weight of approving an exfiltration plan for an asset whose cover has started slipping. You learn what it feels like to tell a younger officer no, knowing the source they're trying to protect might not survive the wait. The embassy treats you with a careful kind of respect, never quite asking what you actually do, just understanding that you're the reason certain meetings happen and certain reports get written. You start hearing rumors about yourself in cables you're not supposed to see. Your name attached to operations you barely remember authorizing. Headquarters calls more often now, fewer pleasantries, more direct questions about deniability. You stop sleeping through full nights. You start drafting contingency plans for officers under your command before anything has even gone wrong. Because by the time something does go wrong, there's never enough time to plan. Power here doesn't feel like control. It feels like exposure with better furniture. Level 6, the operative. Eventually, a request comes through a channel that doesn't officially exist, an operation with no paper trail, funded through accounts that aren't supposed to connect to you, approved by people whose names you'll never see written down. You're told this one is deniable by design. If it goes wrong, there is no rescue, no statement, no acknowledgement that you were ever there. You take it anyway, because by now refusing feels more dangerous than accepting. You travel under an identity built specifically to dissolve afterward, a passport that will be reported lost the moment you're home. The operation itself is mostly waiting, watching a building, tracking a pattern, feeding information to people who make decisions you're never told the reasoning behind. You start noticing how easily The moral weight of a job gets replaced by the technical weight of it. Whether the signal worked, whether the extraction window holds, whether the cover survives contact. You complete it. Nothing appears in any newspaper. No press release, no acknowledgement, just a quiet debrief in a room with no windows, and a single line in a file that will outlive your career. You go home and lie to people you love about where you've been, and the lie comes out smoother than you expected it to. That's the part that scares you, not the operation. How easy the lying has become. Level 7. The fixer. You're inside the rooms now where decisions get made before they get justified. Briefings with people whose titles you can't repeat outside the building. You see budgets for programs that don't have names, only numbers. You see the gap between what gets said in public hearings and what gets approved in private ones, and you stop being surprised by it. Your job becomes managing consequences before they happen, smoothing over an officer's mistake before it reaches an inspector general, quietly retiring an asset whose usefulness has turned into liability, deciding which uncomfortable truths get written down and which ones get handled instead. You learn that enforcement here isn't about punishing failure. It's about preventing panic. A single leaked name can unravel a decade of work, so you become very good at making sure names stay unleaked, whatever that requires. You start to notice how much power has nothing to do with secrets anymore, and everything to do with information. Who has it? Who's allowed to have it? Who never finds out it existed at all? You also start to notice something else. The people above you operate with the same quiet detachment you've started using on the people below you. Power doesn't just trickle down here. It hardens on the way up. Level 8. The architect. It doesn't start as betrayal. It starts as resentment, the kind that builds slowly after years of watching other people get credit for decisions you made, after being asked to absorb risk that other people designed. A contact from years ago, someone you debriefed long enough to half trust, reaches out through a channel that shouldn't exist anymore. Not asking for anything dramatic at first, just a conversation, a favor, information that feels small enough to justify. You tell yourself it's harmless, that you're still in control, that you know exactly where the line is, even as you take one more step past it. The payments start modest and grow quiet, layered through accounts that look unremarkable individually and devastating together. You start studying your own organization the way you once studied targets, the gaps in internal audits, the blind spots in compartmentalization. The officers too overworked to notice irregular access logs. You build an exit the same way you once built cover identities, methodically, patiently, assuming every version of yourself might eventually need to disappear. You tell yourself this is just contingency planning. Deep down, you know you're designing a way out of a life you built for 15 years, one quiet transfer at a time. You picture the headline before it exists. Veteran officer suspected of selling classified material. You don't enjoy the thought. You don't dismiss it either. Level 9, the hunted. The first sign isn't a knock on the door. It's a denied badge swipe at a door that's never denied you before. Then, a colleague mentions, almost casually, that counterintelligence requested your file. You tell yourself it's routine, a periodic review, nothing personal. Then, your access narrows, quietly, project by project, like doors closing behind you, one room at a time, without anyone announcing it. You start noticing things that mean nothing and everything. A car parked too long outside your apartment. A coworker who used to talk to you suddenly choosing different lunch tables. You run your own surveillance detection routes now, except this time you're checking for people from your own side. You start assuming every device you own reports your location. You start memorizing exits in every building you enter out of habit, not training. An old colleague is quietly reassigned, then quietly retired, then simply gone. No announcement, just absence. You don't know if they talked, if they were ever even involved. or if it's just paranoia training you've never been able to switch off. One night, an investigator you don't recognize asks to speak with you informally. No lawyers needed, just a conversation. You agree, because refusing would look exactly like what they suspect. You answer every question carefully, truthfully, except for the ones that matter, and you leave the room without knowing if you convinced anyone, including yourself. Level 10. The Ghost. You're never charged. No headline ever uses your real name. No courtroom sketch. No perp walk. Just a quiet retirement years before you planned one. A pension that arrives smaller than expected and without explanation. A security clearance that lapses and is never renewed. You move somewhere ordinary. A small house, a normal job, a name that's technically yours, but feels borrowed. You stop checking for surveillance after a while, not because you believe it stopped, but because some part of you accepted that you'll never actually know. Old colleagues don't call. The agency that built you and unmade you in the same quiet motion has no further use for you. No warning, no closure, just silence shaped like an ending. You think about the version of yourself who filled out that first application. Certain this would matter. Certain you'd become someone important. You did. No one will ever know it. Somewhere, right now, someone else is filling out the same application on the same kind of website. Certain this is just curiosity. Certain they're only looking. They have no idea how loud the silence gets at the top, or how completely a person can disappear from the inside out. The cycle begins.